Hi there, traders. This is Brad Goodwin with the FX Market Insight for Tuesday, the 30th of June. All right, now just coming out of the North American session, the equity markets bounced back up 2.32%. Now, that hasn't really had an impact on the majors. You can see here the sort of major currency pairs and the dollar index, all sort of, well, greenish. I know that the clocks have just ticked over not long ago, but it's a pretty lackluster market. Now, so what you want to be doing is just preparing, getting yourself organized as far as trend lines and seeing if there's any sort of general trend happening. To me, this is a very quiet Monday, one of the quietest we've had in a while. You're still getting these pairs just drifting sort of sideways. Sterling did respect that resistance level I was talking about yesterday, and it's plummeted to the downside. And Euro just pulled back a little bit. And dollar CAD sideways. But the big thing is dollar Swiss and dollar yen, okay, have moved. So looks like a bit of a, risk off situation, or risk on, risk off. I mean, the risk situation or the safe haven trade there doesn't look like it's coming into play. Now, if I just bring you back to my risk on, risk off template. Okay, just having a look here, you get a good cross-section view of the various equity markets. Obviously, the US equity's up. You'd expect that to roll into the Asian equities, Japan equities. They're up. The futures are up, 1.1, 1.3%. And you can start to see here in the correlation matrix, there's a couple of pairs which are starting to really behave nicely with the S&P minis, the Dow Jones and the S&P. You've got dollar CAD in particular and Aussie yen up in the 90s, right? This is the first time in a while. And NASDAQ, okay, and some of the treasury bonds, sterling yen. So we're starting to get a lead into what pairs are reacting to what's going around in the market. And that's very important for us to sort of isolate what pairs to be looking to trade. Now, if I just give you a look at the sort of pairs I would associate with a risk on, risk off sentiment. Now, got the Aussie. Well, and I've shrunk these up so you can actually get a bit of better perspective. See how far it's come. It started trading sideways. If we did start to see the dollar start to run, there's a pretty good move to the downside. But I think up top, you're going to find a bit of resistance. Same for the Kiwi. There's a lot of room on the downside, down through 64. The figure looks pretty good. And you've got dollar yen and dollar Swiss here. Okay, it's sort of like a complete unwinding of any sort of risk trade, which is a bit weird because there's so much weird news out that you'd think that they would either be trading sideways or just slightly drifting lower. The dollar index, well, it's been in a tight range, but if it can just break through sort of 98 or, above this level here, we could see it shoot back up a couple of 100 points. And the VIX, okay, the volatility index, pretty, it hasn't really come off, but you know what? It's pretty neutral at this stage. So just keep an eye on that as we go forward. I think that's, it's going to be interesting and a bit of a telltale sign for us when it does come to the news, right? So, let me just get this on before I click my next meeting. So that's what we need to be focusing on. Have a look at the, may just come across. Keep a close eye on the news, right? This is where things are going to kick off. US home contracts post record jump. Then you got the usual COVID stuff. And then you got some, it's just Monday, right? Various news about the Fed. But what you want to be looking at very closely as we come into, especially the North American session tomorrow, we do have the Fed Governor Powell testifying. Keep an eye on these macroeconomic numbers. Now, I know they haven't really impacted much yet, but with nothing else going on, I think there's a chance for them to come in. The NBNZ business outlook, that could throw the Kiwi all over the place. You'd think it'd be pretty terrible. Manufacturing numbers out of China. We've got the Deputy Governor speaking for the RBA. So really a big focus there in Asia, Aussie, Kiwi. And then you've come down, you've got, Canadian GDP. It'd be good to have a look at what's going on. Consumer confidence and Powell testifying. So pretty much, there's not much in the European session, right? But there's a bit coming out. Now, it'd be interesting to see if these are starting to impact. And that's what I'll be looking for. Not actively looking to get into it because, you know what, a lot of the pairs are just drifting sideways. So keep an eye on the data. Keep an eye on those risk on, risk off pairs. Dollar yen, dollar Swiss unwinding. And I think the dollar's ready for a bit of a move. It's I'd to me, a strong dollar makes it an easier trade on a lot of different pairs. That's what I'm looking for. All right, guys, have a good one. Cheerio.